to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, thank you. All right, well, welcome everyone. We've got 4 council members present in the building and 3 online. We will continue to do roll call to establish a quorum, and then roll call for any votes that we take. Let's start with the roll call of the quorum. Jeff Gross.
Present.
Jack Wilhite. Unmute Jack. Jack Wilhite. He's got a new microphone. Jack, are you there? Jack, if you can hear us, maybe you can just call in. Call my number, and you can text me if you need to. It doesn't sound like your microphone's working because everything is on here. All right. Diane Quantz?
Present.
All right. Joy Frush?
Present.
Mike Londeras?
Present.
Cindy Dobbins?
Present.
Okay, so we have at least 6 of 7, and I believe they're all here.
Josh.
But
Present. There's Josh.
Josh Finch, present. Sorry, Josh.
It's all right.
Okay.
Can you hear me now?
Is that you, Jack?
Yep, that's me.
Are you present?
I'm present.
Okay. That's good to hear.
How do we know it's really?
Thank you. Yeah, is it really you? All right. All right, I'd like to welcome our visitors tonight from Nextremity and Alan Teo from Kedco. So appreciate that. We'll probably hear from everybody a little bit later here. We will start out with the approval of the minutes from the May 4th meeting.
I found one error in there. They got Mike Klonderis listed here twice as being present, and then on as a member by the.
Well, he's just everywhere, isn't he?
I know that guy. He's so popular.
I'll take him off the phone-in list.
All right. Thank you, Jerry. Any other
No, I'd move.
additions or
I'd move
corrections
to
to the
approve.
minutes? You're done?
I'm done.
All right. Jerry moves to approve.
I'll second that.
Second by Diane. Are there any further comments?
Cindy.
Cindy, I meant. Got a lot
That
going
was
on.
Cindy.
All right.
We got it.
We'll do a roll call vote. Josh Finch,
Aye.
Jerry Frush,
Aye.
Mike Londeras,
Yes, yes.
Cindy
Aye.
Dobbins.
Aye.
Okay. Jeff Gross,
Aye.
Jack Wilhite,
Aye.
Diane Quantz.
Aye.
All right, passed 7-0. Again, welcome to our visitors, and let's, Lynn has presented the April fund report for your information. Lynn, anything of note, any revenue changes through the month?
In Cemetery, Aviation, and Park, they had a pretty big fall.
Okay,
General fund was about 10% down.
all right. This does reflect the supplemental distribution we got from the state,
We don't
correct?
get that till June 1st.
Okay, that's why I asked. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. All right, and then the Comcast cable franchise fees for the first quarter in the amount of $13,216.05. So that's our distribution from Comcast for the first quarter of 2020.
Just out of curiosity, was that upped?
Lynn?
It was up almost $200 from last year.
I just thought maybe with what's going on, people were
Yeah,
signing up.
it'll be the difference between this year and next year's first quarter.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, so item number 3 under reports, oral and written communications. Street Superintendent Jeff Beeler is here tonight. Jeff has worked hard on the Pacer road rating. This is something that is required to be kept up. It's essentially an inventory of all the city roads, and it grades the roads, and that information is used to plan as far as any maintenance and repairs resurfacing, reconstruction of those roads. And it's required by the state. It's required to be participant in the Community Crossings program. So Jeff, I'll turn it over to you. Your video is showing very well here, and we'll let you go.
All righty. Well, thank you very much. This is a lot like the report you've received in the past, but I've had to modify it a little bit because we're doing it as a PowerPoint presentation versus a book form. So you won't be seeing this time all the pages of Excel spreadsheets that was printed out for every road segment. So it's more general information about the same stuff that used to be in the printed out version. We can get that to you. It just really wouldn't work out for a PowerPoint. But there are a lot of details we're going to go through and help clarify to show where we're at. So I'm really excited to be able to present this to you tonight. This is the starting screen here, Pacer 2020. If you see in the picture there to your right, that is our crews doing a paving job with a borrowed county paver. This year, we have the exciting opportunity to be able to use the city's new paver. So it'll be exciting to see, hopefully soon, a picture of that up on the screen at some point. But that is our guys doing some work over by the foundry on a road that has completely fallen apart. So just wanted to show that to you guys. Our guys out spending our money at work there. Let's see. Yeah. All right, the purpose of this report is to provide the City of Warsaw an accurate assessment of the current roadway condition and help guide upcoming roadway maintenance and repairs. The scope of this project is to evaluate all asphalt and concrete roadways within Warsaw's jurisdiction using the PACER guidelines. What is the PACER system? We'll do a little refresher. The PACER system is a pavement service evaluation and rating system. It visually evaluates the condition of road segments. The PACER system rates each segment on a scale of 1 to 10, with 1 being the worst condition and 10 being the best condition, new pavement. Ratings of 1 to 4 indicate poor conditions, 4 to 6 represent fair, and 7 to 10 represent good condition. PACER also does recommend needed maintenance or repairs based on the condition of the roadway. So the methodology for this is Warsaw, we used our staff as the data collection team. The data was collected in January of 2020. Each roadway segment was driven and assigned a grade. The data collection team was looking closely at each roadway segment for surface defects, such as raveling, polishing, surface deformations, such as rutting or rickling, cracks, areas of patching. Roadway segments are defined from intersection to intersection along each roadway unless a defined change in the roadway characteristic is encountered. In these cases, where a significant change in the roadway characteristics has been encountered mid-block, additional segments can be created in order to accurately reflect the correct PACER ratings. All segments were entered into a separate spreadsheet that will allow for easy data presentation. So City of Warsaw's roadway network. Warsaw is responsible now for about 102, almost 103 miles of roadway. This equates to about 235.5 lane miles due to some of our roads being 3 or more lanes. This roadway PACER study focused on the hard surface roadways only. The reason I put that sentence in there is we do, as a city, have 1 gravel road within our jurisdiction, 300 North. So that one is excluded from this. So looking at the ratings from 1 to 10, our greatest is a 7 at almost 25 miles. 8 is 7.5, 13, you can see the chart there. And we'll dig into that a little bit more here later, where you'll be able to see a better representation of where we've come from. But those are our current miles that we have in each one of those grades. So how do we use this data? The data is in spreadsheet form, as we mentioned. It provides us shape files for which we use in our new asset management system. We can easily sort this data in a variety of ways. Possible ways include PACER rating, low to high, council district, maybe requiring it sorted upon traffic volume if we desire, and then other options if we deem necessary. So pavement maintenance. Left alone pavements will typically deteriorate over time at an increasing rate. Maintenance and rehabilitation can slowly reverse this deterioration. The degree to which occurs is dependent on the type of maintenance or rehabilitation, as well as the timing of such actions. In general, an early and systematic maintenance and rehabilitation plan is the most cost-effective and results in the greatest extension of useful pavement life. This concept is further illustrated in the figure below, and the following slides will outline the maintenance types used in Warsaw's roadways and the estimated costs associated with the implementation of this program. Maintenance items such as crack sealing, seal coating, or low-cost treatments that can be performed on higher pace-rated roadways to keep the pavement in good condition and extend the overall life of the pavement. If you look at the picture, the black line is a roadway section. If you never did anything over its lifetime, as you can see, it decreases. And with our preventative maintenance plan that we've put into place the last 5 years, that blue line shows how we keep kicking it down the road and keeping those costs low while keeping the service life of our pavement conditions higher. So I'm going to go through some of the types of work that you've seen out on the streets over these last 5 years, 6 years. Rejuvenator, this is Main Street. This would have been about 1 year or so after it was paved. It's a pink product when it goes on. It dries kind of clear. This is probably the hardest sell because after a week or two, it completely vanishes and you don't see it. So it's one of those things, where did you put your money? But it's what this product does is your pavement is flexible, unlike concrete, and this helps keep it flexible. And a flexible pavement is one that has less cracks, and so that is why we do this product. It also gets reapplied about every 5 years, so we can keep that flexibility in those pavements to help keep that cracking down. Crack seal is something that we also do. As you can see the picture on the left, there's a road that's been crack sealed. This is Center Street going out on the 30, where it transitions into the entrance onto State Road 30. The NDOT section, you can see there, has holes, no bash on them. They just have a lot more miles than we do to take care of. But our section is the same all lay of pavement, all at the same time. And our crack sealing versus not being crack sealed, and you can see the results. Liquid road, this was another process done as pavement is just beginning to age. There's different size stones that you use in pavement. And so as the small stones start to fall out, it becomes coarse. And so there's a product we use on Polk Drive called Liquid Road. You can see as it's going down in the picture to your left, and it was crack sealed prior, and then at the end it was the in-between halfway through process as it's being finished and turning to black. It's a lot like a driveway sealer that maybe you would do at your home. It's just an industrial version of that. And this helps seal up and keep water out of your roadway. And we all have talked about how water is the biggest detriment to our pavements. This is J. Lynn Street. In 2019, this is what it looked like. It's been crack sealed for multiple years, as you can see with the lines. So it was decided at this point, after all the black crack seal that you can see out there, is time for the next step. So we decided to do a micro surface on that project, and that was in 2019. That road services Walmart, Lowe's, and a housing subdivision back behind with an ADT of 11,264 daily. That road turned out looking really, really nice, especially with the amount of traffic on that, at a cost of about 1/8 of what it had been to pave it. So turned out to be a very nice product. Is that was before? After. This was a project, one of my first projects I did when I started. I kind of had some people raised up a little bit. This is back on La Vista. It was the roadway, as you can see in the picture to your left, that hadn't been covered yet, is quite falling apart. To do an overlay on that road at that point in time would have been about $120,000. But really when it addressed some of the issues, it was mainly a very expensive lipstick to put on that roadway. It looked good for a while, but really quickly ended up looking in the same shape. So we decided to go with the Cape Seal, which is a chip and seal, just a little different version with a slurry on top. The picture on your right is what that roadway still looks like 5 years later after 5 winters. So you can see the difference in investment, 120,000 versus 38. Now, not saying that it doesn't need to be hot mixed and reconstructed. It does, but as we are going to show later, trying to see how far we can kick the can down the road before we have to invest those dollars is something we really have to look at doing. And as you can see, this process really has held that road together for a very small investment. Here's another thing we've been using the last 3 years. It's fabric. I know it's hidden. It's underneath the pavement. These two road sections, the one on your left is Market Street, the phase 1. The road on your right is Main Street between Hickory and Colfax. And the Market Street, the one with no fabric on your left, these are both paved the same year, I believe. And you can see the cracking that's coming back through. They're both mill and fill jobs. Market Street did have the roadway widened, but the main driving lane stayed the same. So you can see the uses of fabric, which is an increased cost, but in the life cycle of this road compared to the one with fabric, there are hardly any cracks on that roadway. It's really held up well, especially with some of the grounds that we have around Warsaw, mostly being swamp, with things liking to move. This product really seemed to help elevate the life expectancy of some of our roadways. And lastly, obviously, there's hot mix. This is also another picture of our crews doing paving down by Eisenhower School. And this is, what we always used to do. That was mainly the main tool that we had was going through and either doing overlays or reconstruction and say this is always something that's always going to be there, always needs to be done, but it doesn't necessarily need to be used everywhere. Sometimes you use a sledgehammer and sometimes you use a regular hammer. It's just choosing which one you need to use at the right place at the right time to make your dollars go the furthest and get a good bang for your buck. So let's go into what makes all that possible. How do we pay for that? So we're going to talk about road funding a little bit. These are numbers I got from Lynn of what came in 2019. So our 2019 income numbers, we got about $345,000 in from wheel tax. Wheel tax can only be spent on pavement, cannot be used for equipment, can't be used for salaries. It has to go directly into your roads, that's state law. Then you have your gasoline tax funded revenues, your MVH, $324,000, LRS, $222, which is local road and street. And then this past year, they split MVH in half. You now have MVH restricted, which is $291,000, and there's a lot of rules and regulations on what that can be used for as well. So the total funding for us that came in for roadway repairs was $1,187,811. So that total funding goes up there. So how does that money break out and kind of where does it go and what do we have to work with? So out of that money, usually we try to leave about 10%, 15% behind. That way when stuff pops up that you're not expecting or you're trying to save for some larger projects, you have that money there. So 10% would be about $118 grand. Winter maintenance costs usually for us are somewhere around $200 grand. This year obviously was less. Prior years were probably more. That's a good average for us. Warsaw does have a high standard of winter maintenance that we provide. Generally, we always try to have bare roads within a short amount of time, and we try to keep it that way. So that's what's kind of seems to be desired, and so that's what we provide. Signals and signs run about 40 grand a year in maintenance and replacement costs. Paint striping usually around 50 grand a year, which is probably not quite enough. And then signal replacement, I have that in there just because that's going to be, we have quite a few more years of that to go, really, probably about 5, depending on how funding goes, to get everything downtown replaced, which all is from somewhere around the 60s range from the best we can guess. That's the reason I left that in there to 150 grand. That's half the cost of a signal. The other half comes out of general. So that leaves us with about 630 grand to kind of play with throughout the year to maintain our roadway network. So we're going to take that 630 grand. We're going to say we have 103 center line miles, 235 lane miles. Divide that out. That's about $6,107 per center line mile, not lane mile, per center line mile. Just to give a little perspective to that, Center Street from State Road 15 to the State Road 30, just to crack seal, it cost me just about $12,000. So when you look at how far your road funding goes, I didn't even cover Center Street crack seal with how much that road is going to get me, barely. So that's stuff we're going to talk about. I'm going to show you kind of where the money comes from, where it goes. So there it is again at the end. It says FYI, it costs $704,000 estimated for reconstruction of 1 mile of roadway that's 2 lanes wide. Okay. So cost considerations. So improvements to Warsaw roadways rated 4 and below. Structural improvements are recommended for roadways rated 4 and below. The adjacent table shows the assumptions made are based on PACER recommendations. So one, we usually try to do about 7.5 inches of hot mix. Now this is general. This is a main roadway. Your subdivisions are going to be a little bit less. Alleys obviously are even less than that. So this is just mainly the main roads, this is a large percentage of it. 2s obviously would be a reconstruct. Now remember PACER ratings, 1 and 2s are pretty much there's no road left. There's really no hope for that other than doing a reconstruction. 3, we're getting a little bit better, mill and overlay 2 inch. So we're going to put 2 inches of hot mix. That's what HMA means, hot mix asphalt. And overlay means maybe we do a thin little mill, and we're just going to kind of skin the surface. We're going to put more than lipstick, but not a whole lot more on top of that. And then we're going to fix 25% of the bad spots that are in there. 4, same process, a little bit less surface put back on top at 1.5 inches, and then about 5% of patching. So what does that look like numbers-wise? We have about 0.36 miles of 1, so $352,000 per lane mile. We're at $126,000. 2.9 miles of 2s, and there's $1 million. 3s, 17 miles of 3s, cost per lane mile $141,000. There's 2.5, almost $1 million. 4s, 33.5 miles, $75,000 per mile. 2.5 million, so a total of $6 million for the needed for the roads 1 through 4. Moving on up the scale, Warsaw roadways rated 5 and above. Periodic maintenance items are recommended. So for a 5, it's a seal coat. Maybe that's that micro seal. Maybe it's a chip and seal with a slurry. We have to do that about every 6 years. A 6 would be crack sealing, probably doing a seal coat as well as an option. 7 is routine crack sealing. That's ish where Center Street is. Center Street's probably between a 6 to 7-ish, right up in there. Some parts are better, some parts are worse. So it's getting really close to needing some sort of a seal coat on it. As you've seen driving around, it has been crack sealed, I think twice now since we've been here. 8 and 9 is that rejuvenator, and 10 potentially if it was right afterwards to keep that thing flexible. Unfortunately, we are rejuvenating our pavements very, very quickly after they've been put down. Asphalt isn't what it used to be. There's a lot of pavements out there from the 80s that in some places are still actually kind of dark. They're not almost white. Our new pavements that we're getting now, unfortunately, within a year or even 6 months, as you've probably seen downtown with some of them that were paved last year, they're already getting cracks in them. They're already graying out really fast. And there's nothing we can do about it. That's just where the oil comes from now. Obviously, oil goes into plastics, which plastics are in everything. Jet fuel, car fuel, everything comes from oil. And so there's less of that nasty stuff left at the bottom, which is what we build our roads with. So it's just kind of the cards you're dealt with. So we have to do different things to make these roads last as long or a little longer than they currently are. So what's the dollar amount associated with that? We have about 20.86 miles in a 5, about $709,000 needed for that. In a 6, 19.5 miles, $68,000. 7s, about 50 lane miles. So you remember everything's in lane miles. About 50 lane miles. Need $100,000 for there. 8, 9s, and 10s. So we have about another $450,000. So 1.3 million in the upper echelon. So you see, there's quite a large difference. A lot more miles actually are in this top section, but your cost is greatly less to try to keep those good versus the lower half section. So what did that look like? What do some of those numbers mean? So in 2015, when we did our PACER rating, the total was about $10 million that we needed if we could, just drop it out of the hat to get our road network up to kind of a decent condition, good shape. Here we are in 2020, we're at $7,400,000. So far, we've reduced that burden that we had in the last 6 years, $2.6 million, which is very good. That means we're going the right way. We're not losing. Every year your roads lose life, and then what you do is you're trying to keep that life in those roads. And if you see that number going down, which most places in Indiana, most places in the United States are unfortunately going the other way. But this shows us we're doing something right. And it's nothing we came up with, nothing I came up with. Purdue, LTAP's been teaching this stuff for years, but because of your guys' support in doing an untraditional method of maintenance, this is possible. So it's all kudos to you guys and your leadership and being willing to follow along with this process that we're seeing that number. So let's visualize this a little better. I know this is a little difficult to see. This is Warsaw 2015, the road grade map we have. As you can see, Biomet isn't, none of that area up there is in the city yet, so those roads are black. Same way the couple outskirt ones around there, they have not yet been annexed. There's a lot of yellow, quite a few oranges, reds here or there, not hardly any greens. They're very sporadic. So that's your map in 2015. Now here we are in 2019. Not that the oranges aren't there, not that the reds are not there. There are more greens, there are more yellows. That's a good sign. And then also, if you went back and looked at some of the ones that were green in 15, the dark green, those would have been 10s. Here we are in 2020, 5-6 years later, and those roads are still either green or yellow. We've kept them up there. They haven't degraded all the way down yet. So in a 5-year time period, those roads are holding their own. And then, so that's a good progress that we're making. Here's our PACER ratings from 2015. Highest was 4s, 5s, kind of declining down to not too many in the good section. The low section pretty much has stayed the same. I mean, there is some more, so we have been kind of taking away some of those, which is good to see. Those 1 and 2s, kind of that number getting smaller. But obviously in our 2020s that we had there, road grades as the chart was moving. We'll look at that again. Here's that 2020 again. So we're taking out the highs that were in the 19, bringing those down in the 4s and 5s, and we're sliding some more down higher on that chart. And this helps you kind of see that a little bit better. And I'll leave this one here just for a few minutes so you can kind of see. I know it's busy. Blue is 2015. Orange is the 2020. As you can see, we're kind of sliding that chart slowly towards the better side. Our goal for Warsaw, what we kind of had talked about, was we want to see our average be about a 6. 6 would mean we really don't have potholes around. It's not necessarily skateboarding material everywhere, but it is at least a roadway that we're not busting tires on, all over the place. So we are making headway in our averages, moving that direction. So 2015, our average road grade was a 5. In 2020, we're 6.5. So our goal was to have all our roadways at a 6 or greater. So we're moving there, but at least our average is above a 6. So that's a 15% improvement in our road grades in the last 5 years. Really proud of that, of what we've been able to accomplish, of how hard our guys have worked. We have the best employees in the state, I'm telling you. They can do things that no one else does around here with the things that they're able to accomplish and the work they're able to do. And they are your absolute most valuable asset, period, that they have. Value that. So what is this telling us? It's telling us that pavement preservation is not necessarily a project here or there. It is a change in an organization's methodology for maintaining its roadway network. With money always a constraint, we are not able to pave our way to good roads. For Warsaw, adding these pavement preservation tools to our toolbox has led to an overall better roadway network that would not have otherwise been achievable. This is attributed to keeping our good roads good approach using these preservation methods. We're doing it. We're making a Warsaw a better place to live, work, and play. And it's only been achievable because of our mayor and our council members that have been supportive of a sometimes not pretty approach that has led to something very beautiful. And say, guys, we're on the right path. And say it wouldn't have been possible without your support, sometimes digging deep, asking for more money, allowing us to go for grants, giving us the tools, equipment, and people that we need to make all this thing come together to be able to do this. And so I just wanted to thank you for your part in playing this role in helping our roads to get better. I really appreciate it. So that's your report for 2020.
Good report. Thank you.
All right, Jeff, well, thank you. I asked you to stay on for a second. Are there any questions from the council members with regards to that report? I think it's probably hard to question that, but any comments or
Just
thoughts?
kudos to Jeff and his crew for all of the hard work. It's amazing to see what we've accomplished in a few years' time.
Yep.
I would echo that, and, you know, a day doesn't go by that I drive somewhere, if I'm driving somewhere, that you don't somewhere in the city see a road crew out doing something. And even in inclement weather, I'm thinking, God, those poor guys are out there in this crappy weather. They're patching that hole or they're digging that trench. And, you know, he hit the nail on the head. Our workers are our most valuable asset in the city, all of them, not just street crew, but all of them. And I appreciate it.
All right. Any other questions?
Yeah, this is Diane. Can we get a copy maybe of like the Excel sheet downloaded to the library? I know when people call me and say, oh, my road's a mess, I like to look and see what it's rated before I even start to answer or look at it. Because like Jeff said, sometimes they don't look pretty, but they're functional and they're not deteriorating. And that's a big difference between it being a total mess that they think they need to have it come in and, you know, totally be repaved.
Yeah, Jeff, I assume that you will provide a copy of full report to all the council, correct?
Yes, sir. I just got to make it look pretty and to get it in Excel format. And I can give the whole version with the maps included, just like we did last time. So they'll have the visual and the numbers to go with it.
Right. And
Yeah, that'd be great.
Diane, that's a good point. You know, it's an objective way when someone calls and talks about their road to say, all right, hang on, let's take a look and kind of know where we're at. So.
Yeah, not that I don't call Jeff and say, okay, you know, these people are saying this, but if I know ahead of time and then I go out and look at it, I kind of know what I'm looking at then, and I know what they've done to it, so that at least I can be somewhat knowledgeable when I'm answering somebody's concern.
This is Scott Royce. The one thing I would say is you kind of undersold it a little bit. Going from a 5 to a 6.5 is a 30% increase in the last 5 years. So that's pretty impressive. It's more than a 15% increase. It's a 30% increase.
Well said.
Good catch.
Hey, Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
Yeah, I'd like to make a comment too. I just want to thank Jeff for his digging into this, his foresight. You know, preventative maintenance is not always the most desirable. At least it seems to take the most work sometimes, and yet I think his numbers prove out that it's working well, it's looking good, and I just want to thank him for his hard work.
Ditto.
All right. Anyone else? All right. Well, I think this is going to be kind of difficult for me. From what we've just seen, I think we've seen the examples of what Jeff has brought to the street department. Unfortunately, I'm going to announce tonight that Jeff has announced his resignation from the city effective June 1. Jeff's taken a position in the private sector, a good opportunity for him. I think a chance to sit back and use his knowledge, and I think it's certainly going to be a loss, as you all can tell. Jeff and I talked a couple weeks ago, and he formalized it just this last week, and I really didn't want to make any kind of announcement till we had a chance to go through what we did tonight and really give Jeff the kudos that he deserves. Jeff's done a fine job of maintaining our streets since he began with the city 6 years ago. As you can see, this update on the Pacer rating will get us ready for another 5 years. Another one of Jeff's accomplishments has been the way he's handled maintenance of the roads in the wintertime. The application of salt is now metered and only utilized in a means that I don't even understand, but he's got all this fancy equipment on these trucks, and he only lets out salt that's necessary in certain conditions, and it saves the city on salt, and it saves our neighborhoods as far as the corrosion and so forth. So those are just two examples of what Jeff has brought to the community. Jeff instituted our automated trash pickup. It's going to be hard to say goodbye to Jeff. We know we have to move ahead, but I just want to say Jeff is a dedicated family man. Jeff's a God-fearing man, and he's got quality. He's a quality individual with a servant's heart. Jeff will be missed, and we wish him well and all the best. And I'll just finish by saying the city has begun the search for his replacement. So, Jeff, if you're still there, would you certainly want to say a few words?
Yeah, as I mentioned, so I started March 23rd, 2014, which was a horrible winter. I remember getting the call from Jennifer sitting in a skid loader, pushing snow piles up as high as the skid loader was. When we came into that, obviously, there's a lot going on down at the streets department at that period of time. And I want to thank everybody for giving me, one, the opportunity to come in and do what I've been able to do, and for the support and the encouragement that you've provided not only to me but our department. Say how far we've come from facilities and equipment that wasn't fit to drive around to everything else, and just how you came around our department and brought it up. And one thing I'd mentioned to Joe was, say, it's not me, I'm just a figurehead, I'm a bobblehead, kind of just shaking around, but the stuff our guys have been able to accomplish, I've been able to go and share at different conferences, to LTAP at Purdue, down at the National Snow Conference. I was telling Joe, or emailed it to him, stuff that we're doing has now been read in Germany, China, Iran, France, and in different places across the United States. That Warsaw, yeah, it's the orthopedic capital of the world, but that's now not the only thing it's known for. It's known for doing roads and for doing them well. And that's a really exciting thing to be able to be a part of, to have a team not only supporting from you guys, but then the guys underneath me that all make this possible. It was something that was really, really special to be able to be a part of this. And say it's sad to be able to leave. It's exciting to be able to leave, having to make the changes and do the things, and coming into the environment in which I did in 2014 was very difficult. But thanks to the support, I was able to excel through that. But in that process, things get heavy, and they slowly weigh down. And so, that's one of the reasons I decided to go on and continue to hopefully fly somewhere else. And I know that Warsaw, with the great support that you guys provide, regardless of who comes in, they will have all the tools and support necessary to continue a successful program and to be able to continue on. So I really appreciate everything that everybody's done, and all the support and all the friendships and relationships I've been able to gain in this last 6 years.
Well said, Jeff, and thank you again. Again, I don't know that I can say much more of our appreciation. I don't know if the council wants to weigh in, that's fine.
Yeah, I would obviously like to thank Jeff Beeler. he kind of stole my thunder. I was going to mention one of the things that I was most impressed with was when he came in, our fleet of street vehicles were just in shambles. They were falling apart. You could see through the floorboards. They weren't warm. They weren't safe to drive. And when you see what Warsaw is using today for their fleet of vehicles, it's something we can all be proud of, and it's something that I want our workers to be proud of, and the guys out there doing the job to feel safe and secure, and wow, what a tremendous turnaround in really a pretty short time. So kudos and thank you so much for making that happen on top of everything else you've done for us. Thank you very much, and I wish you only the best. This is Mike, by the way.
Yeah, this is Jerry, and I really appreciate everything you've done with your crew and everything. I've watched it from afar, and I don't know hardly if anybody could do any better.
This is Diane. Jeff, I appreciate your scientific approach, but most of all, I appreciate your personal support. I know I have called you at all times of day and night. I think the last time you had to come out, you were being served fake hamburgers in your basement by your kids, and you just left your family and came and took care of a tree down the road, across the road, and you came out personally and worked on it until your crew could get there. And that's just the kind of person you've been, and I appreciate it a lot, and I want you to know that.
In addition to the professional, I also like some of the personal support and the personal ideas that you brought. I think I like most the truck that goes around town with the little kids' handprints on it. I think that just brings a smile to my face every time I see it, and it just makes me feel community-minded, very personal.
This is home.
Anybody else? All right, well, thank you, Jeff. Well done. Good job, and I'll see you tomorrow, all right? Thank you very much. Okay, let's, with no unfinished business, let's move into new business. The first item, ordinance 2020-0501, is an amendment to the City Hall parking lot. Essentially, what we've done is change the verbiage in this parking ordinance that basically gives us the ability to move the 2-hour City Hall parking spaces around, and basically whatever we designate those spaces, what it's painted on the road, are what they are designated as 2-hour parking. Previously in the city ordinance, you had to designate a spot and then name that spot in the ordinance. This will just say that all parking, as you see in B, all parking in City Hall lot shall be reserved by permit only, except that there shall be 2 hours free parking as designated within the City Hall lot. Let me find this spot I was looking for. That is the amendment. So what this does is it takes out the identification of those areas and just says, as they're designated, are what we're going to use.
Joe, should we put on there that after City Hall closed in the evenings, that it's open to general public then?
That's the way any City Hall parking is, or any parking anywhere, it's open.
Yeah, but it doesn't really say that.
Well, we don't enforce, and
Okay.
that's,
No.
I don't know, Scott Royst, are you on, does it say somewhere in the parking ordinance that the hours of enforcement? I assume it does.
I believe that sign itself says from 8 to, I'm looking for the photo that Stacy sent. Hold on, let me see if I can find it.
Okay.
I think it says 8 to 4.
Yeah, I think it says 8 to 4. So the sign itself informs everybody. Weekdays from 7 a.m. until 4 p.m., the City Hall lot permit required. So it says at the City Hall lot that it's 7 to 4 p.m. on the signs.
But the change is in the highlighted area, and it says as designated, and that's really the change that we're making.
And we want to leave it as designated in the lot so that if you decide to change the hours from something other than 7 to 4, you don't have to change the ordinance. You can just change the designation at the lot. And right now we've designated it from 7 to 4.
One clarification too that I would want on the 2-hour. The 2-hour parking is not just for people going into City Hall, is it? Can they be going anywhere downtown?
Yeah, those spots are marked 2 hours. The others are marked City Hall visitor. So they're designated as City Hall visitor. They could park in the 2-hour spot and do business within the city.
Right.
But the designated spots that are visitors to City Hall are specifically for someone coming in, paying their sewage bill or visiting building and plan.
Yeah, I just had somebody say to me one day that they were parking, well, theoretically in the 2-hour, now I don't know for sure, and they were told that no, if they were not gonna go into City Hall, they couldn't park there.
That's not correct.
Okay.
And again, part of the situation is Jeremy has hired another individual and we need to create a spot for that individual. So instead of changing the ordinance every time we have to change a spot, the idea here is just to make it as designated. So, questions? All right, so this is an ordinance. It will require 2 readings unless you pass it unanimously tonight and wish to suspend the rules. But if there are no questions, I'd ask if there's a motion to consider ordinance 2020-0501.
I would move to consider ordinance number 2020-0501.
Motion by Diane, is there a second?
Cindy made the
Or
motion.
Cindy? It's twice I've done that.
Okay.
I'll second.
Second by Josh. All right, any further discussion? All right, we'll do a roll call vote. Start with Josh.
Aye.
Jerry?
Aye.
Mike?
Aye.
Cindy?
Aye.
Jeff Gross?
Aye.
Jack Wilhite?
Aye.
Diane Quantz?
Aye.
All right. Is there a motion to suspend the rules and vote on a second reading tonight, or would you prefer to wait till the next meeting?
I would say let's get this thing behind us. So I would make a motion to suspend the rules on ordinance number 2020-0501.
All right, motion
I'd
by
second
Mike,
it.
second by Jerry. Any further discussion? All right, roll call vote. Josh?
Aye.
Jerry?
Aye.
Mike?
Yes.
Cindy?
Aye.
Jeff?
Aye.
Jack?
Aye.
Diane?
Aye.
All right, thank you. The ordinance passes on second reading.
No, now suspended, we still have to vote.
Yes.
So
All
that,
right, we'll go around again. Jeff, or Josh?
Aye.
Well,
Aye.
does there have to be a
You need a motion
to-
first, I
A
think.
motion to entertain this ordinance the
so
second
I'll
time.
make a motion to pass 20-0501 on second reading.
All right, is there a second?
I'll second that.
All right, further discussion? Josh Finch?
Aye.
Jerry?
Aye.
Mike?
Yes.
Cindy?
Aye.
Jeff?
Aye.
Jack?
Aye.
Diane? All right,
Aye.
Perfect.
very good.
Done.
All right, thank you. Let's move on to item number 2. This is Resolution 2020-0502. This is approving a memorandum of understanding with Nextremity Solutions. This was voted on and approved unanimously this afternoon at the Redevelopment Commission. I'll have Jeremy come up and introduce. We've got 2 members from Nextremity here, and Alan Teo is also here from KEDCO, and we'll talk about state incentives that are being offered. But this MOU is a incentive package from the City of Warsaw being presented now by City Planner Jeremy Skinner.
Yes, so thanks for being here tonight and those I can't see. But the Redevelopment Commission did review their similar resolution to approve the MOU at 4 o'clock this afternoon. As you'll notice, the MOU has two different sections. One is being approved by the Redevelopment Commission to give an incentive of $250,000 towards equipment purchase by Nextremity. And the second section of that MOU is to give a $250,000 forgivable loan that would be given out of edit by the City Council. Both of these incentives are to incentivize Nextremity into locating into the second shell building that we built out at the Tech Park. That shell building is located directly across from Banner. If you haven't been out there, they have the shell mostly done, and there's roughly about $3.5 million of investment in the existing shell building, and by the time it's completed, it will be around $8 million invested. The MOU you have outlines an agreement between the Redevelopment Commission, City Council, and Nextremity for certain improvements that or for certain incentives that we agree to, and for certain stipulations that Nextremity agrees to, which includes a number of employees that they will add over that 5-year time frame, as well as a range of employee wages. They will also be making some personal equipment purchases within those 5 years. The structure of this loan agreement is not yet written, but in general, the MOU kind of lays out those points that are in that will be in the agreement. So what you're approving tonight and what Redevelopment Commission approved is a resolution to agree to move forward with those agreements once the details are worked out between Nextremity and you as a City Council and Nextremity and Redevelopment Commission within the purchase. So you will be signing a loan agreement. This MOU is not that agreement. You will be signing a loan agreement if you were to approve the MOU at a later date, and that loan agreement will break down those stipulations within it. Now, the MOU does outline some of those stipulations. It will be a 5-year loan. The premise is that the first loan amount would be given out prior to June 30th of 2021 in the amount of $50,000, and then subsequent yearly loans of $50,000 would be given out in January 1st of the preceding years, so 4 more years starting in January of 2022. The agreement is that they have a structure of employees that they would hire. If they met those agreements, that loan would be forgivable on a yearly basis. So in theory, the first loan that was given out in June of 2021 would be forgivable in January, at which we would issue the second loan, assuming they meet their obligations outlined within that loan agreement. If they do not, they would pay back the preceding year's loan amount. In this loan agreement that you'll sign at a later date, there will be more stipulations on how that gets paid back and so forth. I don't want to get into too much details of that because there will be a loan agreement that you guys will approve. The funds are coming out of edit for the loan portion that the City Council would agree to. The funds are coming from the Northern TIF District that the Redevelopment Commission would agree to.
And Jeremy, I think that's really an important point that people understand, that this is not their, coming out of the general fund. It's not property tax money. This is money that has been generated from the current Tech Park TIF district out there and continues to be generated.
Yeah, I agree. And one of the things that both the TIF funds and edit funds are supposed to do is to create economic development. And that's exactly what this project will do. It will occupy our shell building. I believe there'll be around 60,000 plus square feet that they'll be occupying in that shell building. They are adding more square footage of office than was originally configured within that shell building. I believe the original footprint was around 53,000. They'll be adding, I think, 21,000 total office space, which is higher than what the original plan was for that shell building. The design of the shell buildings both of our shell buildings have been really flexible in the ability to expand and add to. So even this shell building was designed to have the ability to have second floor mezzanine office space, which Nextremity will take advantage of in this shell building. The exciting thing for us is being able to occupy that second shell building. We're on the verge of certifying our tech park for another 4 years. We certified it back in 2016 for another 4 years, and we'll be applying in September of this year to certify that for another 4 years. and this will go a long way to accomplishing those goals we initially set out within that technology park to get those technology businesses, to have Banner and then have Nextremity across the way from Banner will be a huge win for us when we submit for that recertification. The tech park, as you know, is allowed to collect up to $5 million. We spent about $5 million in infrastructure improvements in phases 1 and 2 of the technology park, in land acquisition. So right now we've collected around $1.5 million. We want to keep that ball rolling to be able to collect all of that $5 million that will come from the state. So in essence, we're building our technology park with these state funds, and then being able to capitalize on that within our Northern TIF district at the same time, and be able to incentivize industries that are going to create jobs to support our residential needs within Warsaw and our commercial growth as well. So it's kind of a lot of pieces coming together all at once, but obviously before you is that MOU, and the funds would be coming out of edit for that loan agreement that you will sign at a later date.
So I think talking a little bit about the tech park creation, I think it was in 2013 when we applied, Governor Daniels had created this type of incentive for communities to attract highly skilled, high-tech manufacturing type jobs. And we were given that certified tech park designation. And with Nextremity's expansion plans this year and their decision to go into manufacturing, this just creates the perfect tenant for the tech park that we had in mind from the day we sat down and started dealing with Mr. Curlin to buy the 90 acres. It's been a long time coming, and to have this type of opportunity to grow a homegrown business, and I'm not going to steal Rod's thunder because I know he wants to talk about this, and Rod, you will come up and talk, you know that. But Rod is a great story, his Nextremity is a great story, and to be a part of that and allow our shell building and our tech park to continue to grow. Jeremy mentioned a really important factor is meeting that recertification. I think last year we took in close to, I believe it was around $400,000 in tech park increment. And what that means is that any state employment tax, COIT, edit, sales tax that's generated in that park comes back to the city. And that's what Jeremy was talking about, the increment that we're allowed to gather up to $5 million for. The whole idea, Governor Daniels decided that money would come back if we could attract that type of investment and that type of high-tech manufacturing. We don't want a bunch of warehouses out in the tech park. We want Nextremity, and we want Banner Medical, and we want companies that can provide those high-tech type of jobs in our community. And I'm probably preaching to the choir, Mike. I know you sat in on this discussion this afternoon at Redevelopment Commission, but this is really important, and I'm really excited the fact that we've got a homegrown company here that is willing to take the risk, invest in the community, provide jobs for families, and be a big part of our story, our continued orthopedic. With that, first of all, are there any questions of Jeremy regarding the MOU and the proposed incentives?